Rasati out here in Singapore, and it's kind of like a moody, gloomy kind of day out here today. But decided to jump on and do a podcast episode anyway. So welcome back to the Night Owl Podcast. I really appreciate you guys joining in. Today is more of a think out loud discussion kind of day because there is something that I've been listening to with Tony Robbins. I'm going back through my Robbins Madonna's coaching classes, and there was a concept in there about the art of being miserable. And bear with me for a little bit. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm just talking out loud. I'm trying to discuss this a little bit because I see aspects of both sides of it. So I know plenty of people that are diagnosed as depressed, diagnosed as anxiety disorders of some sort. I know people who have self-diagnosed themselves, and I want to talk to you all because I'm also like I've been through seasons of depression, right? And for me, even in the season of depression, even though I was going through some kind of like big trauma, big situation where I just felt useless and just small and inconsequential, like all of those feelings, there were moments throughout those days where I didn't feel that. And I need people to understand if you're going through a depression, it's almost like a season of recession, right? It's a depression. It's a season of depression. Even in those moments, it's okay to have moments of levity, gladness, things that make you laugh for a moment. It's almost as if like if you're in a really good mood and something happens and it triggers you and you go into like this rage, or maybe you go into a depression, you remember somebody, you're going through like a grief moment because you're missing somebody. Any of those things can happen. The same thing, the opposite is also true for moments or seasons of depression. There can be moments where you're actually happy, where you watch a movie for a while and it kind of like distracts you from the now and whatever's going on at the moment, the big something that you're dealing with at the moment, and you have a space of time where you're laughing and you're enjoying the movie, or you're enjoying the company of certain people. But when you leave that space, when you leave that circumstance, you go back to things that remind you of that big thing that you're dealing with. So yes, this is a little vague today, but I want to talk to you about this because I feel like some of us have a habit of feeling bad because we've been diagnosed with depression when we have moments of happiness. There's moments of carefree feelings, or this moment of, oh my gosh, I really enjoyed this. I really laughed my guts out. I felt really good today, but I'm supposed to be depressed. So maybe I need to find a way to go back to that depression. I need to remind myself that I'm depressed. For every feeling in your life, there is a season. It is supposed to wash over you. Yes, you're supposed to feel it. You're supposed to explore, why do I feel this way? And then eventually you will get tired of feeling that way and you will move on to the next feeling. It is normal for you to feel contentment on a general basis, and then something will happen and it makes you angry, or it makes you very sad. Like I said, maybe it changes your move, it changes your trajectory all of a sudden, and that is also normal. But just like with any feeling, besides that easeful, peaceful, balanced feeling, any other feeling, you will get tired of holding on to that feeling and you'll need to come back down. It's almost like, have you ever had those moments? I remember when we were kids, right? Me and my brothers, we used to like start playing, and at some point we start laughing and laughing a lot. And my mom would be like, you know what? Y'all laughing too much. Something's going to happen. One of y'all are going to end up crying. And that would happen. We would end up laughing, laughing, laughing. And suddenly we forgot what the boundaries were. And we kind of like dismissed the fact that we were playing the same joke over and over again. And maybe it was no longer funny. And the other person would want to stop you and they would react out of anger or something. Any of those things can happen. But the point is, too much of anything can end up being bad. But for those of us who deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, any of those labels that we've given ourselves, sometimes we feel guilty for not constantly feeling that way because we've already assigned that label to ourselves. We've already given ourselves that identity. So in those moments, I need you guys to remember, these feelings are meant to come and go. These feelings are meant to point out something that does not fit in your life. So one of these things is not like the other. We need to get rid of it. Or we need to adjust it. We need to correct it. And so we can go on about our lives and feel a little bit more content more often. So I know that the depression comes from a place. It comes from a belief that you've adopted. It comes from someone who is making you feel depressed possibly. And you believe what they're telling you, so you assume that depression, you take it on, you embody that for a moment. But even then, that is meant to be for a season. It's not meant to be a lifetime of depression. Just as soon as you get into a depressed state, it is also just as easy to come out of it. It is easy. It is possible. It's a matter of training your mind to see the possibilities. For example, when I left my husband and came back to Singapore, I was going through a clash of emotions. There was a part of me that was mad, and I was like angry, like how dare he put me in this position where I had to choose, and I did not want to choose because I left behind stepkids and I brought my child along with me, and I was afraid. In part of that, I was afraid because at some point my daughter's going to turn around and be like, yeah, you took me away from my dad, and she's going to be mad at me for that, and I was afraid of that portion of that. Part of me felt stupid and disgusted with myself and guilty for having not been good enough to be able to make it work. Like, I mean, I should be able to make any marriage work, right? Any relationship should be easy enough to make it work, and I somehow was not good enough to make that work. I wasn't good enough for him to feel attracted to me all the time, or interested enough to put my feelings first all the time, and I felt really small and inconsequential in those moments. But you see, I'm talking about one event. I left my husband to start over, and how many emotions came along with it. So many emotions. And honestly, it was easier for me to go through that infinity loop of depression into anger, into depression, into anger, because I got tired of one feeling or the other and I moved into the other, right? So I would go through these feelings of I feel small and man, I wasn't good enough. And maybe it was the fact that I couldn't cook well enough, because he used to yell at me all the time about forcing the kids to eat the same shit for a week. And he used to get mad at me because, I had stopped dressing up so much because I was a mom now and I was breastfeeding my kid, and I had to be in comfortable enough clothes where I could breastfeed at the drop of a hat, because, if she was ready or I was ready, I had to go feed her. And I didn't feel good enough to go dress up and look nice anymore. And he would talk to me like how I was like a slob and I just didn't look appealing to him. And I felt like shit. And all of a sudden I would be like, well, no, but why should I feel like shit? Because this is what I'm doing for my child, and my child depends on me, whereas he does not depend on me. Why should I cater to this man? He should know better. He wasn't pulling his weight. He wasn't helping me out. And what the hell did he think I was going to do? Like sit down and like wait for him to come like change his feelings and suddenly be attracted? No, I got to do what I got to do for my kids. And so it would be this infinity loop, this figure 8 dance that I was doing with all of my emotions. But as much as it was easy to stay stuck in my thoughts and remind myself of all these things that justified me being mad or justified me being sad, there were other things that were going on in the present moment that could pull me out of that loop completely if I allowed them, if I trained my mind to see the possibilities. Yes, reminiscing over things that have happened in the past will remind you of why you are depressed or why you're not happy or what's going on. Generally speaking, if you were to stay in the present and see what's going on around you right now, chances are you give yourself new things to remember when you want to come out of that cycle. And that's part of this idea of the man of constant sorrow. Just because you have been diagnosed for a season of depression does not mean that there is a specific length of time you need to be depressed. Chances are it will come and go, depending on your thoughts. And once you discover that it is your thoughts that drive whatever emotion is going on, you can choose to reach for a better feeling thought. That is also a possibility. I've seen people who are, having a really great time and they're enjoying, their night out with their girls or whatever, and suddenly you'll see it on their faces. Their whole physiology will change, and suddenly they go from laughing and dancing and having a drink, enjoying themselves, really losing themselves in the moment, to suddenly they're withdrawn in a corner, playing with their phone, look completely depressed and upset. Why? Because they suddenly felt guilty for having fun outside of the relationship that they happen to be in. So what did they do? They pulled out their phone to see if that person had missed them somehow, maybe. Maybe they texted them and said, hey, you know what? I miss you. I hope you're having a good time. And that text would have encouraged them to continue having fun. But if there was no text, they would suddenly get angry at the fact that this person didn't miss them. Or if they did miss them and they sent a text to the effect of, oh my God, are you still out? Are you coming home anytime soon? Because we need you here. You can't be out all night. And that would send them into like this shame and guilting feeling where they suddenly feel depressed about the fact that they're doing something that they probably shouldn't. I've seen it happen both ways. People who are depressed that suddenly find reasons to be happy and laugh and forget themselves, and people who are very, very happy that suddenly go into a rage or suddenly go into a depressed state because they chose to look for something that reminded them that this is the way things are. You do have a choice in your thoughts. Yes, you can get carried away with a train of thoughts as well, but you can also choose to disrupt that train of thoughts by finding something else to reach for. It's this self-awareness that I try to teach to all my clients. You don't have to be the man of constant sorrow. You don't have to be clinically bipolar, which means you're always this or that all the time. You don't have to be clinically depressed to always be depressed in order for you to live your life. It is meant to be a situation where someone who is a professional tells you, hey, it looks like this is what you're going through at the moment. which also means you go through this right now. It means you can change what you're going through shortly thereafter if you understand what it is that's triggering this feeling. Self-awareness can give you the power to choose in your life. A lot of times we're the victims of our feelings, right? Because we don't know any better. We don't know that we could, come out of this feeling. We're at the mercy of other people and their actions or their reactions to us, and that causes us to have an emotion. And sometimes we react to them, and that causes another emotion. And it's like a roller coaster because we're being dragged around by everybody else. But once you understand that you do have a choice, you don't have to attend every fight that you've been invited to. You don't have to have the last word. You can let them have the last word and laugh to yourself, chuckle to yourself. That's okay too. Which means you're not adding to that cycle. You don't give your energy there and then feel depleted somehow. You don't have to attend the argument and then, somebody egged you on and was like, oh yeah, they hit below the belt. Now I got to go defend my... You don't have to. You don't have to. You can let them have the last word. Let me give you an example. I have 2 stepchildren, and they both were used to living away from each other. So they were raised as single kids. And when I came into the picture, I brought them back into the same house and I raised them as siblings instead. And what would happen is the younger one, who was the favorite, right? The younger one would pick on the older one when she didn't get her way. And the older one, upset that the younger one pinched him or whatever, would retaliate and pinch her back. At which point, what would she do? She would cry and ask for her father and be like, oh my God, he pinched me, leaving out the part that she started the whole damn thing. And in that situation, the older one would get in trouble. Until I told him, look, let her do what she does. Let her do what she does. If she's going to slap you, fine. If she's going to kick you, fine. Do not add to that, because the only thing the parent will see is that you're older, you should know better, but you indulge yourself and hit her back or pinched her back or did whatever it was to retaliate. In that moment, I had given him a choice. I could choose not to get in trouble and let her get in trouble for being childish, or I can add to the childish behavior and then get in trouble myself because obviously I should have known better. I'm older than she is. And in that moment, he suddenly realized, oh my God, I could have avoided all this nonsense and just drawn attention to her bad behavior instead of drawing attention to both of us, I was hoping, and only get in trouble myself because I'm older and should know better. Trust me, I taught him that because I learned the hard way. I'm the oldest of 3. And whatever the other 2 did, I was going to get in trouble for because I was meant to be watching them. I was meant to be regulating them. I was a kid. And I got upset. And there was only so much I could tolerate at the time until I realized I didn't have to do none of that. I could step away from the whole damn situation. And that saved me a lot of grief. So the same thing goes for depression, for anger, for that rage you feel sometimes, for those happy moments, and then suddenly you have no idea it came out of left, the clear blue left, and it hit you in the face, and suddenly you're upset about something, and you can't track back and pinpoint where it came from. I've had so many people come to me and be like, oh my God, I don't even know what happened. And suddenly I'm just angry. I'm pissed. I want to fight somebody. When I'm asking them, well, where did that start? I have no idea. It kind of came out of left field. I'm thinking, no, it didn't. It didn't come out of left field. It's not that you don't know where it came from. You know exactly where it came from if you're going to take the time to go back and look. Just because you have been giving a diagnosis of some kind of label to do with mental health does not mean you have to stay there. It's meant to help you identify what's going on in your life so you have a semblance of understanding. Once you understand, it gives you the ability to choose from there onward. Once you understand, you're supposed to go investigate and see what it is that upsets you, what it is that sends you into this state of depression, this state of rage, this shameful, I feel so like shit that I don't want to interact with anyone. I'm better off if I'm just by myself. I'm better off if no one knows me. I'm better off if I leave this earth. What is it that sends you into that train of thought? If you can identify that, then you have a choice. You can choose to reach for a better feeling thought, or you could choose to indulge yourself in whatever it is that your thought is telling you. A lot of your beliefs are made up of comments that have been passed around by people in your life. At some point, somebody maybe said you were fat and you believed them and you considered that particular weight at that particular time to be bad. And from then onwards, you built a life around that bad measurement, not knowing that as you get older, as you get taller, as your body changes with puberty, it changes with you. Those definitions change with you. You're allowed to update them. You're allowed to change them. It really comes down to how good you feel about your life. So I want to encourage you guys, go back and look. make sure you understand a season of depression is not meant to be a lifelong thing you carry. You can come out of it. It's okay to come out of it. A lot of us tend to identify ourselves with one label or another. And we feel bad to leave the label behind because suddenly we think that, oh, if you leave the label behind, maybe you were misdiagnosed. Maybe you were pretending the whole time. Maybe you were never depressed to begin with. No, that's not true. It was a season of depression. If the seasons on earth can change, if you have a spring, summer, winter, and fall, you better believe you have the permission naturally to have seasons of happiness, seasons of sadness, seasons of anger, seasons of growth, whatever the case may be. It is okay. But just as the seasons, they come and they go, you are allowed to come into a state of depression and leave it at some point once it's served its purpose. And the purpose of any of these major feelings, these constant feelings, is to point out what fits and what does not fit in your life. What is okay for you specifically and what's not okay for you specifically. You are not meant to be just like everyone else. You are not meant to be a sheep. Yes, there are norms out there. There are cultural standards out there. And that's okay that they're out there. But no one ever said you had to measure up that way. No one ever said that this is the only way to live your life. Because if it was the only way, the Crusades would be justified. Right? To kill people because they didn't believe what you believe, that was okay, right? Wrong. Yeah? So I hope you understand. If you have any questions or concerns, drop them in the comments below. I want to hear from you. Let me know where I need to teach more about. But in the meantime, cut yourself some slack. If you happen to be going through a season of depression and you find yourself laughing at something, make a note of what made you laugh. I would rather you make a note of the things that brought you out of your depression than make more and more notes about what makes you depressed and what keeps you depressed. Yes, I understand the need to overanalyze everything that happened in the past and understand why it was wrong to happen to you, why it was, uncomfortable for you to be in that situation. But at the same time, I would love for you to start noticing the things that make you forget all of your pain and help you enjoy the present moment. I'm not saying you should forget all your pain and live your life. I'm not saying that at all. Your pain is helping to shape you. But understand where it's coming from. Why is it paining you? Why is it uncomfortable? What is it about those moments that do not fit with who you are? Because if pain is showing you where who you are is clashing with who they told you to be, the pain should be pointing out what you should be changing. What is okay for you to change because it doesn't fit you. I hope this made sense, you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you again real soon. I love you. Bye.